Assalamu alaikum, good afternoon listeners. It's me Sulaiman Ben Swari, coming back on Facebook Live to discuss these morning issues. If you give me a minute, let me just share this video to my page and I will start the program. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. Today is Tuesday, the 31st of August 2021. The time is just gone about 34 minutes past 5 in the afternoon in Birmingham, England. Yeah, we're coming back to discuss the current affairs, political affairs, and we'll have a look at an insight into the candidature of Mr. Essa Faal and our democracy on the likely outcome or the desired outcomes of our elections. And we'll start this program by talking about the current affairs before we get to the main event. And talking about these current affairs is quite obvious out there. And this is the reason we're talking about is for Gambians to think about it more seriously and take it more seriously. It's just to remind us the facts are out there, and the Gambians on the ground and outside in the diaspora, as I always say, we all know our problems and we need to find the solutions. And it's the failure of leadership. And in order to start this change, we have to make sure we have the right leaders in place. And it starts with us. It's Gambians who are to vote. It's Gambians who are to energize the voters, whether we have the voter cards or not. But it's us that can bring about this change. It's not based on any single person. It's not based on any other thing, apart from participating into in the democratic process. And this is what we fought for. We fought for democracy because we believe it's the best system. And now we need to nurture this democracy, make sure we have the outcomes that the majority of Gambians desire. And the outcome that majority of this Gambian desire is the peaceful, free and fair elections. And whoever comes out, that will be the majority electing that person. Then the people that have not even supported that person would have to support a government in place. And the good thing about this change would be, we would start to cement or crystallize the fact that there is nothing like an incumbent power. The power would rest on the people. Whoever comes next would realize that if I fail the social contract, Gambian people will take me out. Regardless of whether I am the commander-in-chief, I am the president, or my party is in government, that institutions are under my purview does not mean nothing absolutely, apart from to doing the right thing. If we do the wrong thing, the Gambian people are the institutions, the Gambian people are the people that vested that power into to my party or to my government administration. That's why it's important to do that. By looking at this Barrow government, poor government have completely collapsed and failed. Now, the elections should be within the opposition. This is my idea. This is my thinking. And this is what I want to energize. The opposition should be among the opposition. How do we make it competitive among the opposition to bring out the best out of us? Whoever wins, we will have a vibrant opposition to follow. We should not go for the continuous lose situation, where the elections will be about two entities. Whoever wins, take it all. And what happens is that to take it all become complacency. Complacency, and they end up failing, just as Jawad did. That's what the failure of Gambian democracy was. Because they took it all. I mean, there's no belief that change can come from the opposition. There's no belief that change can come from the ballot box. The incumbent is powerful, he controls everything. That narrative has to change. But in this case, if change comes, the opposition is still effective. That's the democracy we should fight for. Then the government, politicians are only good when they hold accountable. Because the politician, you might have a good party leader. You might have a good executive. But what ends up happening is the politics itself is run by patrons. It's run by a cabal. We like it or not. Just as in America. You have the Democrats, you have the Republicans. What's the difference? The corporate America rules. Corporate America rules. We have a small country. We don't have to have that. We should have a system, a very more effective system. We should not look at other countries and choose second to best. We can look at other countries and devise something better, regardless of where we are. Doesn't mean that we are African, we don't deserve better. Doesn't mean that we are Gambia, we are small, we don't deserve better. No. We can become a shining example, just as we did in 2016. There's no country that have never ever taken out a dictator to the ballot box. We did. We did because we are unique, we are Gambians. That's the strength we should be looking at. Right now, the Barrack government, the corruption, the incompetence have, rendered our country bankrupt. Have rendered our country, our sovereignty at risk to lose our sovereignty. And that can happen in many ways. Through destabilization, open conflict, through the lack of the economic efficiencies, to the extent that we lose our competitiveness, and the sub-region, our neighbors Senegal and Guinea-Bissau, become the attraction. And what do? We depend. And gradually, that's what happens. If you lose your economy, you lose everything. Do you think any country go to war because of they hit each other or anything? No, they go to war because of economic interests. And this is what we have to realize. And if you look at the failings, we already had about the transport workers union coming out to say that they're going to demonstrate because of what the government is not listening. The government is not representing the interests of the drivers and the public. Who are these drivers union? They are us. They are part of the critical sectors of the economy. Gambia used to rely on the re-export trade. Apart from agriculture, was a re-export trade before agriculture was developed. Gambia, when we found independence, actually, it was on the backbone of, in fact, the re-export trade. That's what the transformative idea the PPP had. Agriculture was already suffering. This is the reason, because we fear agriculture was suffering of the groundnut trade. That's why the British never wanted us to have independence. They want to offload us. Because they already, the chief secretary here is already subsidizing the purchase of groundnut in the Gambia against the Senegalese market. Then our founding fathers thought about what? The re-export trade. They said that they were going into the UN convention, to discuss our independence with an open mind, whether independence, self-rule, or to have a federation with Senegal with an open mind. But they said that even if they eventually come out to favor a federation, they want to keep a Gambian identity. And how would they keep a Gambian identity? They talk about the infrastructure. They talk about the airport. They talk about the seaport. They talk about the jetties along the river Gambia, so that they can bring our produce and they can re-export. Import and re-export to our neighboring countries. That's where the ideas were found. And the PPP government makes sure the re-export trade becomes the second, a major earner for the country, for GDP, to balance our deficits. Where is that today? Now the transport union are highlighting this. That's why we expect our politicians to be in tune. We have failed in that sector. Barrow have failed in that sector. People that keep on criticizing the Jawar government, people that keep on talking about Yaya Jammeh development. Do you know right now, the critical infrastructure of the port was built by Jawara in 1992. The expansion of the port, being container, everything. How efficient is that? Right now, we are having congestion because we have not developed the critical part of the the port to make sure we can host more vessels. More vessels. Now that congestion is costing us. What the price increase, inflation, is costing us because of now it's more expensive to export to Gambia. We have 5 years. The Barrow government have 5 years to critically think about these developments. They fail because of the corruption inside ports, and you find that corruption at the State House. Now to export to Gambia is more expensive. The delays in the transport industry, the turnaround, that's where the profits are. You don't expect ships to be sitting at the mouth of the Atlantic for how long? To wait to disembark. To the extent of some of these ships are going to Senegal and disembark the Gambian things that were meant to come to the Gambia. Now we are taking it from the Senegal. Are we not losing our sovereignty? That sovereignty our founding fathers fought for. Our airport is less competitive because of the charges and ineffective operations. We could have a good government should have connected roads before we build all those roads anywhere else. Connected to open up the urban area. Not only that, to open up our airport. To connect to the Salum, to connect to the Casamas. Then we will force Senegalese. Then we will be a hub and force the Senegalese travelers who live in the Salum and who live in the Casamas to prefer to fly into the Gambia. Because it will be cheaper for them. It will be quicker for them to land in the Gambia and drive 1 hour and get to their destination than to land in Dakar and take another 3 hours or 4 hours to get to their destination. These are the ideas, practical ideas that we want to hear from the opposition. Not only we will transform the economy, how? But this is the failure we have to expose of Barrow. This is what we want to hear. We don't want to attack Barrow personally. We don't want to hear that. We want to hear the things that are going wrong. We hear them on social media, but we hardly hear this from political platforms. We look at that failure. Now the transport union is crying out. Their livelihoods and networks, because they are hampered by the disregard of the ECOWAS protocol, disregard of the bilateral agreements we have between Senegal and Gambia. How many did we sign? Because we have a weak government who doesn't care. It's hurting us, it's hurting our economy, and we are losing our sovereignty. We expect our politicians to come out and address this issue and give support to the transport union. That's one aspect. That failure can be looked at the teachers' union. Yes, the teachers' union are not coming out, provided due to everything, but we all know that they are harmed. They cannot sustain themselves. They are not with the poor infrastructure in the schools. As those living in the urban area, the cost of rent, transportation, those living in rural areas, the hardship in the rural communities, and other disadvantages. Everything else. Did this government ever evaluated these issues? No. Just as we have heard about the nurses. We hear about nurses who want to go into a strike. Do you think the nurses want to go to a strike? No. They are desperate. They are not listened to. Because this government said they don't have the money. Or they're not ready. When they have the time to do everything, Why should the nurses be punished for government ineffectiveness, government inefficiency? We already know the lack of critical infrastructure. But this government go on to purchase how many ambulances from our money, rather than use that money to prioritize it in our clinics and hospitals. What's the point of purchasing these ambulances to bring the people to the hospital when we cannot even keep those hospitals sanitized because of the nurses cannot even have gloves? Not talk about medicine, not talk about equipments to diagnose, to treat. Which should come first? But do you know why? They will buy these vehicles because it's easy to show. For them, it's easier to show the vehicles. Every constituency have an ambulance. Ambulance to go where? To do what? Ambulance, who is going to purchase the petrol? Ambulance, you need the driver. Where is it? There's a lot to be addressed before talking about those so many ambulances. But do you know why they go for ambulances too? Purchased. Procurement, corruption. The high tickets value is easier to go for 10 ambulances and make millions out of the 10 ambulances rather than go for gloves, cotton, bandages, all the things and all the things. That high mark items, it's easier to get the 10%, 15%, 20% kickbacks. That's why they always go for vehicles. Anytime this government proposes anything, it's vehicles. It's vehicle or contracts on building roads. Biggest corruption. That's all they are after. They don't have the money for this. They cannot do it right. They don't have the time for this. The failure of tourism. Yes, we all know COVID. But do you know what? Many countries are innovating. They are changing their strategy. They are changing strategy to adapt to the realities of life. They are working with the health sector to look at ways to make it possible. This health sector should have been thinking about how do we start to make things to the COVID friendly, to improve our conditions. Did we hear a campaign about the drivers, the service, the service industry, from the drivers, the hoteliers and others being encouraged to have vaccine? If we had done that and bring out statistics to say that 90% of Gambians in the hotel industry have been vaccinated, and these are the kind of stats you sell to say how safe we are as a country. How safe we are as a country. We have to build up a strategy for this tourism to survive. No, it failed. Completely failed because of what? A political appointee, Amadba, who have no care about anything. He's about to make wealth, just at barrel. That's all they effort to make wealth. We had about this stimulus, the tourism stimulus. Why is the money not accounted for? We have had about the corruption in the tourism industry. The frontline workers. We have the land, selling of land and the TDA and others. What we haven't heard from the tourism is a strategy to survive, to adapt to the new realities and innovative ideas. No. It's been a wall. Next are turning up, all for political show, trying to patch up. Nonsense. It's failed. The failure in the agricultural sector. The president will not talk about agriculture. He will not talk about all these critical sectors. We had the fertilizer scandals. Continue. Do you hear investigation? Do you hear anything? No. The first one was investigated and recommendation made from the investigators for prosecution. What happened? Nothing. Zik. Now we had another one and it's ongoing. And you think it's only fertilizer corruption? Dig in. That's why we expect the opposition to dig into this thing, expose it, and tell us what they're going to do different. What have this government advances since they came into being 4 for 5 years? They haven't done anything better. They have not. The horticultural industry is not looking better. I mean, the groundnut is not looking better. The food, I mean, the stable, I mean, the other food products and produce products are not looking better. The costs are not. What's the strategy? What are we trying to gain from our agriculture? The rice development is not getting better. What strategy does this agriculture department have to develop agriculture? What side are we? Not the animal husbandry. Gambia is still buying thousands and thousands of their red meat from Senegal and Mauritania that doesn't even have the grassland, that live in a desert. That's where we buy in our red meat. Chicken. We cannot even produce enough because of what the enabling environment is not there. There's no strategy from this government to do that. We are importing chicken, eggs, mayonnaise. Gambians are eating mayonnaise and bread as a luxury. I mean, it's just crazy. We can afford, Gambians cannot afford all this because we don't have a government that's effective. But what's the opposition doing on these issues? That's where the campaign should be, so that we can tell the difference, not just in poor accusations. Tell us. On youth employment, they forget about that. They don't talk about it. Instead, the government, the president coming out and the same fabrication. I remember 3 years ago, in his presidential tour, he went to Budfoot. He's going to bring a factory that employs thousands of Gambians. Go and look at the so-called factories in the country. Who are they employing and what they employ? How do you employ people when they don't have skills? Do you want to employ only laborers as Gambians? How do we develop these skills? It's sad to say. Now people tell you the students in the university, in the colleges or university of the Gambia, they are receiving less. They're cutting on and they're receiving less in scholarships. And these are things that we should have free education on. Yes, we can do that. It's when we prioritize, not to spend the entire budget on corruption, leakages, and on the president, and useless travel and expense. The Gambia College is producing the teachers, qualified. Gambia College is producing the nurses, the agriculture extension workers, and every aspect of our economy. What we need for our development. The skills that we need. The GTI should be producing all the skills. Are we investing enough in there? No. Go and look at the other budgets. Lack of reforms in the Gambia Armed Forces. It could have been transformed to an institution that will be part of national development. We are not going to fight any battle, and we will never ever be able to fight any battle and win the battle. Who are we going to fight? You can invest billions and billions. Gambia Armed Forces can never defend that country. What defend that country is the people. What defend that country is institutional and international laws. What defend that country is good leadership. A functional government, an effective government that values their citizens, that invests in their citizens. The quality of Gambian citizens is what can defend the country. There's no country that would dare invade us. I'll tell you that. There are many ways to secure your territorial integrity. We losing it, economically. We're going to lose it economically. The Gambia Armed Forces could have been a vehicle to do a lot. But does it care? No. But instead, now it posing a threat to our national security. We had about intakes, 29 intake 30. A large chunk of those people decided to leave the army. And now since May, they were due to be paid their gratuity. They are not paid. Last week, they wanted to demonstrate. They wanted to demonstrate last week because their monies are not paid. Because this government said what? Oh, they didn't have time. The same excuse for the nurses, they're given to the soldiers. They wanted to demonstrate to the last minute. When these people turn up, what did they do? The whole high command came down with the Ministry of Finance and everything else, the Treasury, to give them promise they're going to pay this week. I don't know whether they paid or not. Now, you think, where are these people going? Most of them are going to stay in the country. Now we are building, because of the insecurity in that country, we are building militias by, in a sense, of security guards. Private security. The entire country is of private security. And you think these men and women been trained as soldiers and been dropped and to continue doing unskilled work? Is that not a threat to our national security? If the reforms have worked, there's no soldier approaching retirement without having a pathway to develop themselves. Every penny spent onto developing a Gambian citizen, hundreds will be coming back into our national coffers. And the soldiers are ours. If we don't take care of them, they become our enemy. Because that's what the realities are. But this government don't know that. They are appeasing so-called generals who doesn't have the mindset, doesn't know nothing about it. If you know the deficiencies in the army right now, if you understand the failure of the reforms, I hope the next government is ready to capture this. I hope now the political parties are thinking of a contingency plan that would deal with the immediate, the short term and the medium, and then we plan for the long term, how we're going to maintain our security forces, whatever we call them. We think that we can continue to outsource our security. Look, that's an insult. The insecurity is not the fault of the soldiers in uniform. That's a lie. It's a failure of leadership. And if we fail to fix this leadership problem, and we think that ECOMOG in the country can stop it, no, it's a lie. Go and read history. Go and read political history again. You think ECOMOG was not in Liberia? And since they were in Liberia, how many times did conflict break out? You think there's no intervention force in Bissau? And when they were Bissau, how many times war conflict broke out and in other territories? Do we understand why we're having these problems? Continue having foreign forces, outsourcing your security to your neighbor, Senegal, a competitive. Look, we have to be realistic here. We can call ourselves to be one for as much as we want. But as we are a sovereign nation, we are competitors. Now, if you think that I am your rival, I have to rely on you guarantee my security, and we sit down on the negotiating table and I have what I want, I'll be killing myself. Senegal will always have what they want on the negotiating table. Go and look at all the so-called treaties or whatever you call them signed since Barrow came to power. It's all disadvantage to Gambia. Why? Because of Barrow is completely in a hostage situation. His security are Senegalese. Most of his spiritual leaders are Senegalese. Most of his political strategies are Senegalese. What do you expect? Most of his technocrats are affiliated to Senegalese. Most of his technocrats might be even Senegalese intelligence operatives. Do we know that? Do we think of intelligence here the way it is? You think Senegal would come and send their forces to take over the Gambia? No, it's intelligence here. Putin, Russia. Yeah, at times he will send his battleships to come around. At times he will send his listen to come around. He will make statements. But do you know how he undermined democracy? By using us. Using the Brits. The aristocrats of the Brits. The conservative of the Brits. The far right. The left. Play them up. And that's how he's been destabilizing the European Union. And that's how he destabilized the democracy in America. And he continued to threaten the democracy through intelligence here. And if we think of the most important aspect of our security, will be intelligence and the police. The army is a constituent part of contingency planning. And if the intelligence here and the police work effectively, you might not need the army. It's just that you will have it, always think it, have it for physical security and on contingency planning. Do we invest in this? Do we have the right caliber in this? No. It's entirely politicized and effective. That's why we are here. Now, the next government, we think of how we're going to get the leaders. We have to measure our leaders onto this. Can they deliver the national security? But again, we talk about all these things, and one thing will come up: there's no money to do most of these things. But this government will always find money to give to political operatives, actors. We have seen how much they went on to buy operatives from rivals political parties. Now we have seen the turn of the APRC. We have seen how much Sidinjai turned up to be wealthy within the short time he served Barrow. He served in Yaya Jammeh for 10 good years. But within the short time, he built a mansion he built a, whatever you call it in the combo. Now he's building a mansion in his village. That's how much audacity now they have. And others, not only him, we have seen the cooks, we have seen everybody else, political actors. But we have now seen recently how much is going to the APRC. To the extent of APRC hosting a meeting at Coco Ozone. Do you know how much it costs to host a meeting at Coco Ozone? For APRC to have that confidence of spending that much money at Coco Ozone, how much money do they have? What's the importance of the meeting that can be held in any community center or their bureaus? It's the newfound wealth. It's the newfound wealth. What message are they sending to us? Now it's for us Gambians to decide who is to lead us. The power is not on the incumbent, the power is us. We are the people that decide who govern us. Look at the failure of NAWEC. You see, if we have time to look at each one of what I have mentioned here, the ports, you will want, if Barrow comes out and the investigation continues, you'll find out how much Barrow benefited in this. You know, I've not talked about GRA. That's another one. The revenue. That's another one. But NAWEC, you think the problem with NAWEC is anything else? It's the same game. The main problem is in NAWEC is corruption, ineffective leadership. And you cannot have an effective leadership there because any effective leadership would have to go. Barrow cannot work with an effective leadership. Leadership with integrity would not work. Because the NAWEC, according to my last information, I have 40% of NAWEC expenditure is on fuel. And there's a cartel that controls this fuel importation in the Gambia. And that fuel, that, you see, because of their control, that with the corruption, in fact, the mindset of the NAWEC operatives would not want to move from fuel. Lubricants and fuel. 40%. Just imagine how much that generates. Operational cost of NAWEC, 40% of NAWEC. Right now, Barrow would make sure he determines who gets that contract. A guy called Musa something, with a surname spelling in French. I'm not saying it's because we have some Gambian surname spelling in French because they went to French institutions. My first cousin became a victim of that. Someone, in fact, sent me a message, said, "Oh, look at this guy, he's a Senegalese working for this parastatal in Gambia." I laughed. I said, "No, he's actually my first cousin. He's a Gambian, but he went to a school, French institution, school from Foyer to Senegal and so on. That's why he have that French spelling." But yeah, but this person, we all believe that he's French, probably Malian or something like that. Now, this it's just crazy to find out how this guy got the contract. He doesn't even have the capacity to import. He's just a front. Now he's using somebody else's license to import because of he is connected to Barrow direct. Now the kickbacks can go to Barrow. And the theft is here. The guy is given contract based on to say that the guy gave the lowest bidding. Yes, that's what they do. The lowest bidding, they to justify giving the contract to him. But the time of delivery, what happened is two things. The quality that is on the bid would not be delivered. The amount of sulfur that's supposed to be present in that fuel is not, if let's say it's a 2% sulfur on the bid, you might find 10% sulfur in the bid. Low quality of oil. Now, that is costing NAWEC. In fact, because NAWEC, if NAWEC puts in a low quality oil to be taken as good quality oil, that should dictate that NAWEC can run their machines for 3 months without stopping it for this thing. But because of low quality oil, if it goes to 3 months, it damages the machine and you have to buy spare parts. You see the cost, one. Two, the volume that they put, that's been invoiced. The volume, if they say 1,000 liters been invoiced, 500 liters has been delivered. If they say that 1,000 liters have been invoiced to NAWEC, 500 liters was delivered to NAWEC. Now, this is why it's bad to be corrupt. Now, Barrow takes his kickbacks, but at the end of the day, we said, why NAWEC having problems? Go and look at the car power, the contracts, how everything is on kickbacks, and Barrow gets his share of kickbacks. That's why NAWEC cannot be fixed. Not only the capacity that is needed to deal with things, but the corruption mostly. Now, spare parts is another one. You can go and go and contract for projects. Most of the contract, we have only seen the evidence on the Chinese company that took a contract for the 35 million Fatu Kodole. That's another proof of Barrow wrecking our institution or continue to wreck our institution. Where do you think Barrow is having the much money from? It's not his salary. Yes, I know he's been paid very, very generously and everything is taken care of. But still now, the amount of money is through this corruption. We can go on now to tell you many other reasons. Now, because of this corruption, the ineffectiveness, then the capacity would not be there. We continue. The OIC project. I promise that I am going to bring out information on this. I'm still working on it. I'm still working on it. I'm waiting for certain evidence to be permanent to support the allegations. But I can tell you, Gambians seeing the road conditions. Gambians seeing the road conditions. I'll tell you this. The people I have shared this with, there is something called the Islamization project of Jammeh. And the OIC project was part of the Islamization project. And what Jammeh wanted to do by hosting the OIC and having all the development infrastructure developed around the Congo, and by the same time his relationship with China renewed, and the projects in Basse and other areas. That's what Jammeh wanted to use after the hosting of the OIC to announce himself as an emir. Because for him, the success of the OIC, the infrastructure of the OIC would have given him. This document was developed in 2016 based on of intelligence. They would point out to our relationship with Russia, why Jammeh accelerated our relationship with Russia to open an embassy in this thing. The military the agreement signed on the joint military corporations and other things. Jammeh would have successfully hosted the OIC. He would have delivered those projects. But Barrow's corruption and incompetence make sure the projects fail. That's why the road conditions are the way they are. This was an opportunity. The OIC was an opportunity. OIC was started part of Jammeh's strategy. It was for us to continue. Barrow failed completely. And let's just cut it short. Barrow himself said when he went to a so-called visit of sites, how can you visit a site that have not started to be prepared, that have not started to be done, nothing done? I mean, what are you visiting? No, it was to deal with the Gambians' expectation, to manage our expectation, because he knows that the roads are going to be really bad as the rains drop. Because of now, the soil is so soaked up. It's easy for things to flow and I mean, water to be stagnant. Now, by going up there to have a press coverage is to manage our expectation, win our confidence that a project is coming in. But you know, God works in miraculous ways. When Barrow himself let something out without realizing he let out, said that everything is ready. Now, if he said it depends if Saudi okay the contract for the funding. Why did that happen? The way these contracts work with the Islamic Development Bank and the Saudi funds and others, they work on a way to accountability because they look, they learn from their mistakes. Technically, the government, the road authority, NRA, what do you call them, the road authority, and the Ministry of Works are the people to deliver the project. The OIC obviously is the facilitator. The OIC go for the funding and other facilitating and coordination. That's why you have these people as shareholders. But mainly the NRA and this thing would be the implementers. Now, the facilitating everything else, if a project, the road projects, they have a bidding process. They have a qualification process to go for the bidding. And you go for the bidding and awarding of contracts. Everything been dealt with should have to be covered by paper trail. Even the meetings, they have the minutes have to be covered. And everything has to be submitted to the funders, Saudi Fund and the Islamic Development Bank. To go through the qualification process, to look into all the procurement and the bids. If they are okay with it, then they would disperse the money. They would pay the contractors and the consultants. Everything would have to be looked at. What Barrow and government did is, they went to the pre-qualifications to the last minute. They introduced a company that they technically took out a portion of the contract and give it out to a company. And I will not name the person now because I'm still working on this some detail. But is a guy from Sierra Leone, and the guy have someone who lobbied for him. Now they gave him they put him part of the contract. Now the people that been disadvantaged voiced this out, and Saudi authorities and this thing have got this message. Now Barrow is in a catch-22 position. What he's going to do? Because of 6 million. So far, this person have paid kickbacks of $6 million to Barrow and the other people that associated with Barrow. People that facilitate, he have paid the 6 million kickback. Are they going to give back the kickback 6 million and withdraw the bid? Or are they going to take their chances that now they're taking their chances? That's why Barrow said that it depends if Saudi finance it. Saudi have already given their go ahead, the finance idea. The Islamic Development Bank have done the same thing. But now it's for government to do the part of the things, and they fail. Now, this shows you the amount of failures into every project this government have conceived. The Hakalang is the same thing. Every other project is the same. It's the Banjul project, everything is corruptly done. It's not worth what it is because of they enrich themselves. Gambians are suffering. Now, another project going on is the Jinak project. Jinak. People that know Jinak will understand an ecological side it is. It should be most of Jinak should not be built on. Or if it's to be built on, have to be built in a manner that protects the air, the ecology, the animals, and every other thing. The flow, water flow. There's a lot of things that need to be considered. This government, 2 years ago, they tried it. with the scammers, a company that was scamming them from United Kingdom. The minute we saw the information online, we went and did due diligence. We found out that the company is not credible. They have not got a track record. They haven't done anything, and all the directors have no credibility, nothing background to tell that they could run this. And we found the office. They forwarded as this thing was a postal post box in Mayfair, and the other thing is the actual office in fact is in a Whitton and Council estate. One of their houses they listed as the second office. They have nothing. It was a scam. Now we exposed that and followed to that came off this thing. Now a Senegalese citizen, the name is out there, Modu something, I don't know. Senegalese citizen is promised to be given 1.7 miles or whatever it is, hectares, or whatever it is to develop a housing estate. We have to be careful. GNAC is sitting actually along the borders between Gambia and Senegal. You see, these are all things that needed real evaluation, not only on the ecological side, environmental side, but on our geopolitics as well. Part of the other part of GNAC is sitting within the Senegalese boundaries. We have to be very careful. And another thing is, so far our checks, the company does not even look legit. Again, we should understand the scam going on with land. People acquire this land, hold it, and start to use the land and everything else to try to get funding for. There are a lot of things that goes on, because Barrow would not know that. Because what he advances is what he's given. The minute he is bribed, he's obliged to deliver. And the minute he shows a sketch or whatever it is to show that this is what we're going to do, he falls for it. We have seen the likes of Econ doing the same thing. And I can remember when I saw the Econ thing going on, I said to a Gambian, oh, no. I said, let's go. Let's see the Econ City. Let's just see the Econ City. But now Econ City is not being talked about in Senegal. Now Econ City is being talked about in Uganda and others. There are a lot of things that goes on. It's not easy to develop these things. But there's a money being made in having a profile. The content, they sell content. Profiles, they sell profile. We are in an information age. A responsible government needs to be very careful. And this is the situation we sit on. Now, the chances of this government staying is next to nil. It's only if the opposition is completely useless. It's for the opposition to lose these elections. This is what I'm putting, because every condition, standard of living, everything in the country, the students need to be supported, the youths are not being skilled up. Let's go on. Economy is not being opened up. Let's go on. Loss of sovereignty, the security. Let's go. There's no area that this government can campaign on. Now it's for the opposition to win. But it's not only about winning elections. Our experience should be to win elections and develop our democracy and the social justice. People to benefit. Nobody eats democracy. Nobody eats democracy. Let's look at this. Now, as I said before, I said this many times, and when I make my arguments, I always say to people, it's based on facts. It's based on evidence. It's based on logic. I will not go out there to try to foresee things. I can't. No, it's based on my analysis. It's based on this, and it's based on experience. It's based on comparison studies, able to tell the differences. I said that Barrow will be struggling because Barrow lacks the capacity to build a political party. In the environment we are, to build the structures, build a capacity, have a communication strategy, and then deliver a convincing vision. And if he fails that, he cannot be. To deal with the challenges of the country, he doesn't have the capacity. And because of he is using corruption and opportunism, what it's doing is he is breeding incompetence in the system. you breed incompetence and corruption in the system, what do you expect to have as an outcome? That's why everything fell. That was my argument. It's not that because I'm a fuller, I can see the future. I know the carbunkers will think that. I know the carbunkers are terrified. They think I'm a fuller, I can see the future. No. It's just based on these facts. These are facts. And it went on. It went and went. Every venture he went through, it failed. He went to handle with the APRC situation. It failed. It backfired. Now it's just the opposition to do what they meant to do. That will bring us to our other side of our topic. This is about the candidature of Essa Faal, our democracy, and the outcome of our the election results. I was really busy. I have to come in because it's quite important and to put it on record. And put this on records. Whoever can save this program, save it. Save this program. Now, in politics is content, timing, strategy. In politics, content, timing, strategy. In content is the leadership is part of the content. The content is the campaign, information and that environment you operate in. If any political strategy should have to look at a campaign strategy, would have to get this thing right. Timing for everything is absolutely important. How do you do things? Then what we say in politics is that to win an elections, you have to have the right team to do that for you. As we believe in God, Allah, that it makes everything possible, but we understand our religion too. We have to put it out there for it to possible. And if you are a good strategist and you do things, good, what happens is at times you look at yourself and say, wow, how this thing even happen? Because there's so much you have control of, and the rest is left to other people, how they act or how they react to what is happening. But you have to be able to gauge yourself, to position yourself and put things out there for things to magnetize. Now, Napoleon said, give me a decisive leader who is lucky, rather than a brave leader, a general. Napoleon preferred a decisive leader with luck. You'll ask yourself, why luck? Why think about luck? Just tell you fate. Brave. What does that brave means? It's not that person that just jump in. That's not that person that goes in for things. That's brave. But a decisive leader, a general, would in fact at times withdraw. Because withdraw is an act of war. Withdraw is a strategy. At times they will withdraw. They will know when to do things, how to do things. Timing will be important. Then luck will come in. You see, you make your own luck. That's why I said, when you are a strategist, at times you're, wow, and it falls in, and you say your lucks are this, that's where the luck comes from. I will give, what I will try to do, I will give comparisons, then before we talk about Essa as a candidate and the environment he's operating in the Gambia. And my comparison would start with Obama. Obama as a decisive leader and a lucky leader. Obama was not a brave leader. Obama was not the brave leader. We'll look at the brave leaders. We'll define that. Obama was decisive and a lucky leader. What Obama has was the discipline and the strategy. Obama has discipline and strategy. And now, remember this. Obama came political experience to nil compared to the people he was, going against. I mean, within the Democratic Convention, even people challenging, to be the candidate for Democrats. If you come to political experience, he was the least. But what Obama had was discipline and luck. Where did the discipline started? from when he realized who he is. And if you want to understand Obama, I would recommend go and read The Dreams of My Father. It will help. As who he is, with all the things that went against, should have gone against him, the circumstances he was brought up, an absent father, an African father in a country like America, and mixed race. I mean, and the mother being married to another man from another culture, and every other experience. But he had a good parenthood, a mother that loves him, and a grandparents that were there to support. That was his background. People would call that a dysfunctional family because of the father was absent, because of the second marriage did not work, because of this. No. There was love in the relationship. But again, yes, it was a traumatized environment, being brought up as a mixed race in America, and a black person, African descent, whatever it is, those challenges for every person, youths, children and youths bringing up, is a traumatized situation. It's never just a happy journey. But with discipline, he did some of these mistakes, but the discipline stayed on. But he had a strategy. What Obama did was to work on himself. From an earlier stage, found who he is and what he wants to do and who he wants to be. And if you read this book and even the follow-up, The Audacity of Hope, you can see that this guy mapped out. It did not happen by accident. Mapped out how he's going to go with this. Even trying to find his father. To reconnect with his father's, paternal family was a decision taken. Even getting married to the person who got married to, it was a decision taken. He had to work for that. He had to fight for that. Because all that have something to do with the future he wants. And probably, I've not heard him say it, but probably the future is in politics. But let's just say a future he wants, that's a successful future. But moving to Chicago was a decision he took. And it's all part of the journey. You can connect the journey. Walking into projects. Imagine this guy left an Ivy League, these things, and he was within a good place. He started a corporate world in a good startup. And most people that get in there just think of how to develop themselves and make more money to become a partner and move on. And when they get the billions or millions that they think of, it's not satisfying, I have to try something else. That's what most people would do. Most. But no, he decided not to climb that ladder, but come off that ladder and start working in social services. You might say he's mad. Even the choice of girlfriends he used to have is different from the wife he ended up having. That was a decision. He knows he's going to far with this. Moving to Chicago was an important part if you understand American politics, if you understand the history of the Democratic Party and Chicago. Working in the projects, working with the church, faith. You see, faith is quite important, as most people will not understand it. When we say faith, entire faith we mean, be it Christianity, be it Islam, be it Buddhism, and any other faith. And generally, we are people of faith. You'll be surprised that people that have faith would be so compassionate, would be so tolerant in connecting, especially with others with faith. That's what faith gives you. That faith was important in his life, but was important in another form too, to shape him and the person he became, the candidate he became. Because people will look at him as a people of someone with faith. America, as big as it is, and our Western it is country of people of faith. You hear them, the politicians will ever say whether they believe it or not. They either want to get the Christian right, either they want to get the Catholics, or when they want to get now the Muslim vote have become a vote. That's important. But again, the churches used to work, venture in. The university, going to the university as a profession. It's another interesting move. This guy could have worked as a legal practitioner and doer of things in the legal field. He went to the university. And that shaped him a lot. And his support system in academic and the understanding and the way how he shaped himself. And again, if you read The Audacity of Hope, you understand how these other people, especially from the left, have influenced him. His understanding of the conflicts, shaping his mindset. And these are educations that most Americans will not have. They might be educated, but they don't have this. But he has this balance by being a university professor of law. Then progressing into politics, taking his chance. Taking his chance. It was calculated. He did not succeed the first attempt. In fact, when he succeeded, was by luck. You see, he made his luck. If you sit on your hands, you don't make that luck. He in fact succeeded because someone else was disqualified. He made his luck. But if he was not candidate, he would not have been there to serve. That's why it's our democratic right, and as patriotic citizens, it's our duty to put ourselves forward. And we look at this when we look at the case of Essa Faal. We look at this critically. The political journey he took, the convention, going to speak at that convention, people that know will tell you how much he worked for that convention. And what he said from that convention, that I am going up there. And that convention was to measure. You see, he going through a journey. He was measuring his popularity. He was measuring the message he want to send. How this is going to be captured. He went to the Democratic Convention and gave that speech. And what did he do? He put it all out there. And again, I would advise all the politicians, aspiring politicians, to go and listen to the speech and listen to JFK and other people. How do they present themselves? How do you sell yourself? How you don't oversell yourself? How did you bring the baggage out? People, what they think, give it out to them. Put it out yourself. It becomes no controversy. His name, his background, how he put it out there. He was not ashamed of that. He talked about what defined him. Even the decision of writing the book, the time you wrote that book, and the things he put in that book, and the way he put that book, everything was based on the strategy. He wanted an message go out there. The timing. The message from that convention, everybody started, who is that skinny guy from Illinois, everybody, whatever it is, started to go on. And I've watched this person who's given an example, a very close friend of his, I don't remember the name. He said, from the convention, the next day or so, they went for a basketball game. The first game, they went for a basketball game after the convention, maybe a day after 2, 3, or 5 days, 1 week. And Obama picked the ball and threw it and went straight in the hoop. And Obama said to him, I'm going to run. The guy thought he was mad. You see, because they thought the guy even close to him thought he's mad. You just become a senator. You just mistakenly, by luck, become a senator. Now, what money do you have? No money, no nothing. He's still struggling to pay his bills and so on. Not because of he was posh. He could have been a corporate lawyer and pay everything off and do all. But no. with the support of the wife and support system, he went out there. The call out of Iraq. As a senator, he came out and called out Iraq. The invasion of Iraq. You see? Catalyst. Invasion of Iraq. And you see, again he made his luck. Because he believed in something and he dared to say it. It was unpopular to do that. The Patriot Act and everything else, the nationalism and America, he didn't, even within the Democrats, you dare not go against the war. He went against the war. And I give an example of that again. In the United Kingdom, the Liberal Democrats went against the war in Iraq. It gave them the 30 seats they won in the coming elections and sent them to government. That decision of calling it right in politics. It went on. The timing. Obama timing, people thought he was mad. The timing is wrong. You are inexperienced, you need to take it. That was his time. If Obama failed to run then, in politics, Obama stayed in there. I said he was going to vote, he might not ever become a president. The timing was right. But people, because of they didn't know the journey of Obama, they didn't know what Obama was made of, they didn't know what Obama have thought about, they didn't know what Obama have planned. They see it as it's impossible. Obama was not a brave general. He was decisive and a lucky general. He went through it. He went through the convention. The timing. Why the timing? The Iraq war. Now, it's a procession. All he have to sell was hope. Hope. Obama sold hope. Hope based on a strategy. Everybody talk about experience. Everybody just. It was a time that nobody thought about that. An inexperienced young guy. Now, we're not looking at the scholar now. In corners they were. Black people were doubting him more than white people. Because of what in the convention, what he did was to position himself. And gradually he built that identity. And now it was being successful, we become a negative term in a black thing. If you are so successful, you are not a black person, you are a white person, especially in politics. You are Uncle Sam or whatever. Now he was having to deal with the minorities. No, but he was starting to be accepted by the liberal, white people. He moved on. Now he have the Iraq war call out to campaign on. Now the economy is in fault, everything's faulted, the country is divided, and he called up for the unity of the the country, to unify and give them hope that yes, we can. But it was not only a slogan, it was a strategy. That strategy went on to do what? The funding. Everybody knows about money and America. In order to have the money required, you need the corporate. But you cannot approach the corporate until you are mainstream. Ask Bernie Sanders. Why Bernie suffered? Because of the corporate will not give it. Because of his message was against them. Now you have to be a mainstream in order. You cannot be an outsider or anything. You have to prove to get there. He devised a strategy. The university students, funding small. The message, again the message in Iowa and started even to stay on, to get to Iowa and those areas, winning the votes in those areas, something started to happen. But everybody call it for Hillary. Everybody call it for Hillary. No, it's for Hillary, it's for Hillary. Hillary have experience, Hillary have this, Hillary have the black support and everything. That was true. But what Hillary didn't have, Hillary created and galvanized the far right. galvanized the Christian religious right. And Hillary did not have the entire Catholic vote. But with Obama, even though he's black, he neutralized the far right because they did not see him coming. He is a person of faith. Then the negative acts. The negative acts cannot talk about anything that he have put out there. What he have put out there, I smoked dope, I misbehaved, I did that, everything was out already. That cannot be used as a point. That's why I say, put it out there. Find a way for it to go out there. If you become a candidate, expect a negative comment. Except people going after you. The faith-based, they use faith against him. They want to use Jeremiah, the church, and the things that Jeremiah said or the church said. That was to his advantage. He did not touch it. He let them bring it out. Now, when he was attacked, based on that he associated with what they call the extreme black nationalist movements, that give him a black threat. The thing people believe now, he's black. And minorities own up to him. Now he's been seen as someone been bullied, someone been this thing. It's not that he have said anything, he have subscribed anything, but that's the church he attended. But after people understand, he did not only attend that church, no, it was part of a project. He was running a project and the church was in the heart of the project. What do you want him to do? You see, now that negative art become something different positive. Give him a black thread, and they have nothing else to throw at him. Only that, and that in fact confirmed that he's got a faith. And the faith was not Islam, because of the beginning, the far right wanted to use Hussein Obama to make people scared of the Saddam Hussein, Obama, as the Osama, and all those things. They tried that. But because of now they pump too much on the Jeremiah case, what it does, it neutralizes that everything. Now people believe he's a Christian. And it went on. It worked out for him. The negative art worked out for him. But what did he do? The team. He had a team. That's why when I posted asking who are the people around the team, leadership team around Essa Faal. I have inbox people supporting Essa saying, why am I going after Essa? I am doing you a favor. So your team, the team is important in winning confidence. The minute his team was behind, they were behind the scene, they came in front. The niece of JFK, John F. Kennedy's niece, and others, give him a credible backing. And the minute his uncle, Kennedy, what's his name, the old man, endorsed him, it started. The endorsement started. The endorsement started. Now that's how he climbed the ladder and became started with Hillary. Now it was for him and Hillary. Now the hate from the far right was more onto Hillary than him. And now the message of hope have catch on. Now the minorities have come out because of the negative art have galvanized the minorities, not only blacks but Hispanics. And the support that Hillary had in the blacks have moved on to him. Now he's recognized as their candidate. The money started to trickle in. Now, because of his got there, the corporate started to bring in the money. He had to get it there for the money to come in. Now he started to seen as a mainstream candidate. Not in the case of Bernie Sanders. As a mainstream candidate now against. And then he's a young candidate, as a youthful candidate on social media generation. And the campaign team went on the social media, galvanized in getting the funds, getting the support. And the celebrities and everything else, he became that candidate. against a very strong, experienced war veteran. This was the time of talking about national security. Bin Laden was alive. Al-Qaeda was on. They used everything. He doesn't have what he's going to do when he came out. It happened. But the team did it, but his discipline. He stayed on message. He stayed on message throughout the campaign. But finally, not only throughout the campaign, as a president, that discipline took him out, to keep him there, to be a non-controversial president. Non-controversial throughout his time. That discipline is important. As I always said, when we give out examples, doesn't mean that Gambia and America are the same. No. But you will find out that certain things are not unique to America. They are human, it's about humanity. It's about an environment. Or how can you interpret this thing into our environment? How to interpret it into environment. Some of these things are directly transferable, others you have to do that interpretation. Let's move closer to home. Zambia. The candidate ran for 5 times. But does not mean that the candidate ran for 5 times against the incumbent. No. He was part of the opposition. In Zambia, Zambia started to defeat that incumbent. We talked about this last program. Kenneth Kaunda was defeated. The first post-colonial leader to be defeated by an opposition, Chiluba. Did Zambia change for better? No. That's a lesson one we learn. Changing a leader does not mean that you would change the country. Chiluba became corrupt. Yes, Kenneth Kaunda was old. He stayed long. Kenneth Kaunda challenges and priorities were wrong. He had challenges were too much because from independence, it was like Pan-African movement trying to help support the other countries affected by the minority white rule. And so on. He prioritized education. He tried to bring about, the economic collapse as it went on. That was 1. 2. Chiluba comes, but he was not corrupt. He was not found to be corrupt. He tried to unify that country. Chiluba comes in. One time he was absolutely corrupt. Within the first year, $10 million pounds was tracked down to UK accounts. And this was a younger person. This was an economics. This was a qualified person. Most qualified or well qualified. He failed. He was taken out. Through the elections, he failed. Incumbent lost. And it went on. So, but the candidate here that won, I can't remember his name, in Zambia, that won a few weeks ago, was in the run 5 times. Failed. What's made the difference? He was not a decisive leader. Unlucky, no. He was a brave leader. You see? Now, that's what I'm saying. We are looking for a brave or decisive unlucky leader. That's how we are going to base our analysis here. He was brave because of what? If he was decisive and lucky, he would have won the first time because his qualification did not change. His qualification did not change. His integrity and everything is the same person and everything else. Why did he not win the first time? Because he did not have the timing right. He did not have the strategy right. He did not have the team around him right to bring that strategy and to deliver the strategy. And he did not explore things, explore things that he should self-explore. That's why he stayed in trying and trying and trying. Eventually, he realized all these things and applied the decisions that needed to be taken. The strategy changed. His passion did not change. But in time, the time he took for people to recognize his qualities and everything else could have been done in the first time. But it was difficult at then. Now it's easier for candidates to do that. Social media. Whoever says the social media, I'll tell you. Now it's possible. Just as it was possible for Obama's social media. You see the comparisons that we talk about. It was difficult for him to do that, but this time around, social media helped to do that. But not only social media too, because he's been around now many times. People have seen him, he has developed himself more. But another thing is the environment. But the environment did not drastically change from what it was. It was bad. It became worse because of just similar thing we have right now. The development priority of Zambia did not feed the Zambian people. It was feeding the Chinese, it was feeding the IMF, it was feeding the World Bank to the extent of bankruptcy. Just as we are bankrupt now, and if we continue, we'll find out what we have. He was brave. That the bravery was to go into politics. He was not decisive. He was not lucky. And that's why he didn't have a strategy on others. Let's give you the story of Sierra Leone. Candidature Makela, Sierra Leone. If people that know Candidature Makela, Candidature Makela was a brave person. He's not a politician. He's a technocrat. He's a transformer. He worked for the World Bank. He transformed economies. He advised governments. He had social media. At the last part, and just came through social media, people saw his thing, and that's how he got into politics in Sierra Leone. The timing was wrong. It was too short for him to develop himself, to be known in Sierra Leone, because of the social media penetration. And the people that he needed to capture, the team he needed to capture, he could not do that. Those teams have already committed themselves to the bio campaign. The team that he needed have already committed themselves to the Mother Bio campaign. Because you remember too, Mother Bio tried before, he failed. A campaign team. You see, that's why, again, I'm reminding the people that inbox me saying that why I asked about Essa Faal team. A team wins an elections. Campaign team, strategic leadership to win confidence, to push on this. Mother Bio literally gave up in politics. Mother Bio was UK here, struggling, going to school, struggling, the wife struggling. I mean, it's not a bad thing. I'm not, it's not a negative. I'm not saying negative. I'm saying living within the social service, service and everything. He did not stand a chance in hell. But a team realized his some of the qualities he has as a former president, former soldier, and other things he has. They came down to London to sit down with him and draft out and said to him, if you're ready, we will go through this. They have their agreements, and the team took him out. When the Ebola came out, he could not have traveled to, he would have struggled to pay for the airfares to go to Sierra Leone at the time. We were in London. We know what we know. He would have struggled. He was dependent on the social. But the team came up and supported him to go on ground on the ground and shown leadership during the Ebola when the government was failing. He showed leadership. That's how it started, and eventually he won. Now, Candidature Makela transformed. He got every qualification. He's exposed. He worked for the World Bank. He advised government and everything. People love civilians know that. He gave away his citizenship, American citizenship, to qualify. He ran. 7%, I think, or 1 digit. He was the most qualified candidate. Politics is not only that. The candidate is part of the content. Politics is about content, timing, strategy. The timing was wrong. He could not have transformed himself as a politician within the short time. He has crowd follow him. The meeting he did at the independent at the stadium, you would have believed that he would won. But there's a reality. There's a reality about that. That's a reality. The reality is when we close to, we talk about this when we get to Gambia. When you get close to independent elections, either two-way or three-way. If we don't create a three-way, it will be two-way. If we create it, we can create a three-way that would reduce it to two-way, and Barrow would not be part of the equation. I'll tell you that it's possible because it's crumbling. A task force might come in and disintegrate Barrow's platform, and we have a two-way. We'll look at that. I mean, Kandem Yumakela fell. One single digit, less than 10%. I can't remember, it's 7 or 5% of the vote. That's what he called most qualified. Madabia won. And if you want to understand the statistics, go and look at the past elections Madabia ran. And what's the difference this time around? Then we have Liberia 2017. Story of Liberia again. Liberia, the incumbent, all these things, the incumbent has been losing the elections. Liberia, the incumbent lost. I don't want to go to Senegal. I gave Senegal's example with how Macky Sall transformed himself to be an anti-establishment and won the elections. Let's leave that. Let's go to other ones. Liberia. Liberia, because it's a similarity here and outside. Liberia, just a minute. I have some of the information that I need to share. I need to read it out here. Liberia, George Weah won the elections. Based on what? George Weah is not a decisive leader. George Weah is not a local leader. George Weah is a brave leader, just as Kande Makikala. And Kande might eventually become a leader. Win an elections, but the timing was wrong. He did not. You see, with brave leaders, what they do is they plunge themselves in there and they keep on fighting until they win or they're out. With decisive leaders, they choose the timing and develop the strategy, and they will win. They will have to have that to win. Now, in Liberia, George Weah eventually won elections. With what? A new strategy. You see, even a brave leader, eventually conditions will change, environment will change, but you have to adapt to. You have to have the team to bring you the strategy, and that's what happened with George Weah. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. What happened is just as what happened in Sierra Leone. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, 2 terms, serviced 2 terms and was poor. And Ellen Johnson Sirleaf pushed some of the people that put her in power and brought his family members, cousins, uncles, and others into government and pushed these former campaign guys, team that campaigned for him to be in power. Now, when Ellen Johnson Sirleaf finished his 2nd term, those people that he drove away decided to form a campaign team, a team again, and ran and looked for a winning candidate. And among the candidates, they went for George Weah. George Weah did not have everything that they need, but they could convince George Weah to be his campaign team and to lead him to win elections, obviously. George did not have what it takes. But for them, it's to win elections. That's why Liberia is still suffering. They went into Weah, and one thing they did Weah is 2 things. They rebranded Weah and go and look at the past elections and the 27 elections. George Weah started to use his money, George Mane Weah. George Mane Weah, it's to make him a northern candidate. The Mandingo, the Fula, the Muslim vote. The strategies, think about, we have to sell the Mane Weah. Money. Because of, you have almost all the other candidates are off from Bassa and other counties. The northern, the Lofa County and others, technically, they are not even part of the ethnic cities of Liberia. He was a minority. He would not have one. His mother is an Indian, what they call him, a native. Now they rebrand him. But what they did, they give him a running mate, a team. That's Charles Taylor's wife. Because she was popular. Even though she was Charles Taylor's wife, she stayed behind, and she was just a wife. Mainly, Charles Taylor was enjoying with the other many concubines and everything else. She was popular, as a mother of the country and doing things. And she's from an influential tribe, family, and so on. It comes to that strategy. They make a deal and become the running mate. That's what sealed it for real. Now, what happened is the incumbent lost. But there's a candidate, a more qualified candidate again. Why am I bringing this candidate there are many other candidates. There were other candidates who have run elections before. But a new candidate came into the scene called Mr. Cumming, Alexander Cumming, Alexander B. Cumming. And this Alexander B. Cumming was an executive of Coca-Cola. 35 years of senior executive permanent position in the world. He was exposed. He's worth $35 million. His net worth was $35 million. But what happened? He ran for the election. He had 7% of the vote. He was the most qualified. He was a business executive. He came with the message was right. Everything was right about him. Everything was right about him. Look at this. George Weah Mane, you see, I even said Mane Weah, no, it's George Weah George Mane, yeah. CDC pool 38% first round. Bukai Joseph, that's the incumbent, pool 28%. Bromsky pool 9%. Bromsky have run elections before. John P.Y. Prince Johnson, pool 8%. Prince Johnson, you know Prince Johnson, the notorious rebel, pool 8%. You see, that's politics for you. We have to be very careful. It's not only your qualification. It's about strategy. It's about timing. It's about strategy, timing, content, and how you pull it. Cumming, Alexander B. Cumming, ANC, 7.2%. Alliance for National Congress. No, Alternative National Congress. The name Alternative National Congress. 7.2%. Okay. But just look at sound. Let me just sound you the qualification of Mr. Cumming. Mr. Alexander B. Cumming is a business politician and philanthropist. He is the founder and chair of Cumming Investment Holdings Limited, chairman of Cumming Africa Foundation, and standing bearer and political leader of the Alternative National Congress in Liberia. He began his professional business career in Liberia at the Liberian Bank for Development and Investment, and subsequently with the Philbrook company, where he rose to the position of Vice President of Finance for all Philbrook international businesses. He has lived and worked in UK, the United States, Nigeria, Kenya, and South Africa. Former Executive Vice President and Chief Administrative Officer of the Coca-Cola Company. Mr. Cumming joined Coca-Cola Company in 1997, where he worked for 19 years until his retirement in 2016. He retired 2016 and ran for election 2017. He began at Coca-Cola in Africa as Deputy Regional Manager in Nigeria, Managing Director, Regional Managing Director of Coca-Cola in Nigeria, and President and Chief Operational Officer of Coca-Cola group, responsible for all Coca-Cola companies operating in Africa, and passing a total of 56 countries and territory across the continent. In 2008, Mr. Cumming was promoted to Executive Vice President, Chief Administrative Officer of the Coca-Cola Company, with consolidated oversight of key global corporate functions, including strategic planning, human resource, legal, information technology, strategic security, sustainable, and all technical functions, including research and development, innovation, quality, procurement, manufacturing, etc., across 5 groups and 200 countries globally. He retired in 2016 and returned to Liberia to serve his country in business, politics, and philanthropy. As part of the philanthropy, Cumming Africa Foundation has invested nearly $1 million into health, education, entrepreneur, and the art and women youth empowerment in Liberia in 2015. Mr. Cumming received Liberia's highest honor, the Human Order of African Redemption, for the humanitarian work in Liberia and act supporting and assisting the Liberian nation and Africa. He mentored, his mentorship in March business leadership have helped create successful businesses such as Sundia Brands in the United States, JPAL Inc., Liberia, among others. His global player, player with a strong network of relationships, relationship with head of states, political leaders, global. You can go on and go on. That was him. He had 7% of the vote. Do you know why? The timing was wrong. But right now, he is positioned. He's a brave leader. He could have looked the other way. He wanted to be in it. His network, he doesn't need the money or the country. But he continued. Now he is the main challenger to win. And he is building a coalition. His campaign strategy is changing. His team is looking at building a coalition. He cannot do it alone. Just as what they did for the partnership. The people he have to partnership. Africa is a nation of tribes. Africa is and the world for that matter. There's always going to be a strategic interest. Unfortunately, in Africa, strategic interest will come as tribe. Or some regional dynamics will come into it. There's some geopolitical dynamics that comes into it. Gambia, we have to factor on all this when we become a candidate. In African country, these things would be the realities. But for the examples I was giving, Cumming is building himself up, and likely he might win this next elections. He was a brave leader. He was not a decisive and unlucky leader. Now, let's come to Essa Faal Candidature, if you let me. Sorry, I took a little bit of time analyzing the external, but I think the content is very important. Now we ask ourselves, based on the analysis done on the Obama, analysis done on Zambia, analysis done on Sierra Leone, analysis done on Liberia, and we could have done the same thing for Senegal. But why these countries, why these candidates, they have similarity to Essa Faal? And why are we talking about Essa Faal? He was not the only person who have made themselves candidate, but it became controversial. Now, is Essa Faal a brave candidate, a brave general, or is Essa Faal a decisive and a lucky general? This is what would be the final outcome of Essa Faal expedition in politics. Did he actually really look into issues and position himself to become a decisive leader whose timing is right? Yes, I said Obama timing, people thought it was wrong. But Obama knew. Did Essa Faal knew? It's for him to make people believe in order to start to build what Obama built. You see the comparisons. You have to make people believe. Obama started with his wife and friends. And gradually he brought in the, win the confidence. The timing, again, is it matter of how many months do we have? How many months did Obama have? In America is something else, but we have social media. Obama used social media to make this possible. Obama, what journey did Obama have in politics? We have to think about all that. We move on. It's a brave one. Now, the issue with the TRRC, for people who support Essa Faal, have to agree that in politics, every candidate will be scrutinized. And things that would be, the rivals or the opponents or whatever you call them, what they would bring in would be something to make their argument against your candidate. This is where tolerance comes in. Now, it's for you to take that feedback or the criticism to turn it over to an advantage. That's why, again, if you are ready for an office, the strategy, what do you bring out? How do you manage that message? The content. And Obama brought out the content that he wanted to bring out, and he left the other content for others to bring out. You see, and then he used that content as those people brought it out in time of negative to his strength. You see, you don't have to sell yourself by bringing out certain things. Leave it out there. Place it out there. Your opponents will bring it out as a negative term, as a negative act. Then you turn it around to your position without addressing it in a settled way. But that's where the team comes in. The TRRC people will have to talk about it. People have critical minds. Some people, not that they are against Essa, but this is about ethics, merit and ethics. Yeah, he has the merits to run for elections. That's constitutional rights. That's a merit. He's got that right. People pointed out as ethics. And in governance, ethics are important. Just as we call out Barrow, that look, he should not have stayed for 5 years. He should have stayed for 3 years. It's ethics. We agreed on 3 years. Just as we turn around to say Dabo, that he should not have bagged the 3 years. He brought out a legal argument. But no, we said no. Now we hold Dabo for the 3 years, we hold Barrow for the 3 years. Saying that they're not ethical. On that form. Now, another candidate comes in that have a contractual. You see, where something ends, it's not actually where your paycheck ends. The TRRC it's a journey that has not finished yet. The submission of report does not make the TRRC finish. Us Gambians that are here today have a responsibility, especially those paid to deliver the TRRC have a responsibility to shoulder that TRRC. Those against are against for a reason. Now we have to hold on to the TRRC, the report and everything, and why we went in for it. Even though we have not supported it in the beginning. I prefer something else. But end of the day, you work with what you get. Now we have to support them throughout. At times, that's why we have to hold back. We don't go against the TRRC. We have to support them. That's why we come out to support them, because it's ours. Especially those paid to deliver it. Your time does not end at the dot of the hour. Your time and legacy of the TRRC you'll be part of. It's part of their legacy. TRRC is part of their legacy. That should be pointed out. Then the argument of my time finish is not true. Then your time finish is all about what you've been paid. Then everything about the TRRC is what you've been paid. This is an argument. This is where the ethics will come in. It's an ethical argument. And as a candidate, you expect these things to happen. People will try to use it against, because you are an opponent. If you come into politics, expect to have opponents. But people will make judgments too, using this as a way to measure that person. It will come a time, but everything have a timing. Now it's up to Essa and his team how they handle this question. It's up to people, us citizens, how do we approach this? Do we just raise it? Do we use it as a measure to measure him? Now it will come to another level where we will measure Essa. Again, the door will be bolted there. Now it's up to this thing is not legally against him, but it's ethically, morally against him. Now it's up to us voters and people that might not vote, but we have the voice. Where we stand with this. Are we convinced of the argument, or are we not even still convinced of the argument? But now we are at elections. What do we have? If we have Essa Faal against Barrow, what end should we support? If we have Essa Faal against Dabo, what should we support? If we have Essa Faal against Mama Kande, what should we support? And go on and go on. It will come to the politics of it. Among the candidates we have, who do we think would advance our democracy? Who do we think would advance our social justice? That's where the argument will come on. But it's a valid argument to hold Essa Faal on to the ethical point of the TRRC. How we end up just as we do it for Barrow. Now, what do we do? Now, if Barrow have delivered every other thing or most of the other things, fight corruption, deliver most of the other areas, you think the 3 years would have been an issue? Now, it would be a moral position that some people might have in hold that moral things and say, look, I think, something else have counted this or not. It's politics. That's where the tolerance will come in. We support candidates, we should be tolerant in order to win over others. We cannot support candidates and just expect that they should not be held accountable. Then we are bringing our dictatorship in issues. We are fostering dictatorship with before. And it's not to the advantage of the candidate. Because we should be persuasive. We should be listening. We should engage and win over. But as I said, that's a point. And it's a point to be addressed. And it has to be addressed well. And it's a point, a measure that some people would take. And it depends on his rivals how they use this. It's politics. Is it something enough to make him lose support? Is it something more to hold on to him? Or is it this the only thing to hold on to him? Now it's Gambian citizen, but it's democracy. It's good for our democracy. The political capital and the backlash. Again, there are issues raised that Essa have used the political capital from the TRRC as a political capital to run. Who is going to argue against that? It have happened. In many aspects and instances it has. And if you ask me, this is where it might undermine the report. It's not that Barrow would decide to not act. That's not again. That's Barrow. You see, we should not excuse people for their responsibility. Barrow's responsibility, regardless of what Essa Faal does, is to deliver on us. We hold him accountable. We don't give an excuse. Who is he? Does he own us? Does he own the TRRC? Does he own the money paid to the TRRC? It's a mandate given to him. It's a duty that he has to discharge. If not, we punish him. Just as Essa Faal had a mandate and a duty. And if you think that you have to overlook everything good about Essa, and this is it, that's you. And if you have to campaign on that, that's your right, it's democracy. And people supporting Essa have to accept that. They have to combat that by winning over people over. That's what democracy says. But the political capital bit too, that's where the backlash is coming from some areas. And yeah, it might undermine. What does it undermine? The confidence of people have in the TRRC, yes. Would it, I'm not sure, bring in a competitive agreement onto the merits or the quality of report or anything else? I don't know. It's yet to be seen. But if it's advanced and it's a fact, that's what Essa would have to deal with. And his campaign would have to deal with. But what Gambians have to deal with is to be fair and balanced. Fair and balanced, and Gambians to engage. Yes, and mostly political opponents will not be fair and balanced. But we expect our independent press to be fair and balanced. Political opponents would use this, but that's what politics, then them fight it out. But again, we have to be very careful. As opposition, what is our priority? Should we be wasting we should hold accountable. I'm not saying where does we hold accountable. But where does it stop? Where are we being distracted? Where the danger is? Who is the danger here? Who is the person that needed to be removed? It's Barrow. I think 90% of our efforts should be on Barrow, and we should hold each other accountable. And and I think that should be the most effective. But the candidature of our democracy, I think we should welcome Essa candidature, regardless of the point of ethics we holding him on. We can hold him on that. But as we have a right to hold him on that, he has his right to our democracy. And why do we then welcome him? Welcoming him doesn't mean that you're going to vote for him or campaign for him. You might still have your party. You might still have your candidate. But it's a breath of fresh air. Why? And it's not only Essa. We have a guy called Ablai Jammeh coming in. Probably, if Ablai addresses he's a technocrat, if he addresses the people, Gambians would pick on what they want to pick on. The people come and scrutinize him and hold him to account, just as we did to Essa now. Just as when Dr. Cisse came out. And Dr. Cisse, Essas, and things like our breaths of fresh air, we want them. Yes, as when Lawyer Dabo decided to accept to be a candidate. We needed that. What we don't need is I don't even bother to call their names. Because I don't waste my time on them. That's what we don't need in politics. The opportunist that doesn't have anything to give us. But they have a right. Why? But I don't waste my time to talk about what they do, what they don't do. It's Gambians to see that. But these are prominent peoples that have a lot to give. And for them to mix into the politics is good. Why? It encourages other people with capacity to take interest in politics. They will bring a demographic that might not have participated or not much. They might bring, and that would help our politics. And people will learn from their mistakes. And then it will encourage other candidates to come in because of they learn, oh, Essa did this, right? That's his thing. And they'll learn from that. He did this right, I'm doing it. He did this wrong, I'm doing it. But it enriches our democracy. The quality of candidates we need would be enriched. That's why there's no point to fabricate. There's no point to insult. All it takes is, hold him accountable. But as I said, to what limit? Some of these things are fabrication. Look, a lawyer is a lawyer. Until a lawyer knowing, or the client coming to you to admit guilt, if your client admit guilt, you only defend him and support him to mitigate his guilt in order to get lighter sentence. If they admit guilt, you cannot turn around to say, no, don't admit guilt, let's go, I'll defend you. Oh, that's the only time. And did that happen? If that happened, there's a private client and counsel confidentiality. But we cannot hold that person onto those kind of issues to discredit him. That's not right. Let's hold him to things that are out there that we can hold him on to. And if it is that he have these qualities, let him be. Either support him or go and support your candidate. But it's good for him to be in our democracy. You might not support him, but he might get other people to be interested to come in. That's good for our democracy. The elections results and him going alone. What I will say, again, based on the analysis I gave, as I said, I don't foresee things based on, I dream about it, no. Based on this analysis, let's look at Senegal, let's look at Liberia, Sierra Leone, Zambia. Because what we have in our elections here is first past the post. You don't have a second chance. If we had the 50+1, you said, let's all go for it. That's why it's very hard to measure who have what influence, who have what. Unless you have run for elections before. And based from what you gained the last elections, that can be measured to measure how strong you are, how big you are, how structured you are, what capacity you have. The capacity we can tell. That's why I was asking about the team again, to know the capacity you have. You need structures to win elections. Because it has to be delivered. Look, you can settle into Bakau and bring out the crowd and give your message and you go. Who is there to hold that message? Who is there to consolidate on that in order to use the support? It takes a lot. You need that structure. You need a capacity to fill that structure. You need a resources, not only finance. All this needed to be developed. Then you need a good team to do that. Just as political parties have executives to do that. Yes, the IC regulations tell you don't need to have a decision because you are independent. Fine. But the reality here is that it's forced particles. In other countries that we looked at, even they have a second round system. But what happened when the vote collapsed? Because as we get closer to elections, what likely happen is we look at the two contenders, unless we create a third one. And in most cases, when we create a third one, the second party or movement person we believe to be second contender might lose the votes, and we have to contend. That's why it's important to make people to believe that you are going to win the elections. It's important. But not only saying it, but people have to see it. See it. You have to. There's a way to. That's why you see political parties try to build on rallies, try to bring out photographs and videos, and don't be fooled by these photographs and videos. It's the angles. At times, it's the angles, the focus, and they do everything to win our confidence. Then, if anyone said that social media is not important, no. That's where it goes now, and into WhatsApp group and others to win the confidence is important. Now, going it alone, I'll tell you, my prediction would be a 1 digit. And if not only for Essa, this goes for almost the new political parties or small parties, they will end up having 1 digit. If any one of them scored 7%, they would have gone great. And what that does for you in the short and medium term, in the parliamentary, in the local government, what that does for you. Now, if you are thinking as a candidate, if you are thinking as a party, now don't think about the presidency alone. You see, that used to happen with Jammeh. We only think about the presidency. We never think of how we capture the parliamentary and local government. How do we make sure if we lose the presidency, we are still in play? We have a sustainable plan. Now, these are things that we need our opposition to think about for our democracy. Not for any individual, not for any individual party. That will advance our democracy. I keep on telling some of my friends, they'll be on social media. They belong to this so-called small party. I believe in small, but there's something small party, depends on certain measures. But every small party can transform themselves to be big party. There's a strategy again to do that. That's why I keep on telling them, stop wasting your time on agitating others. Stop wasting your time, in fact, acting as a barrow because of you feel that you have something against another party. As an opposition, go for the big kill. You have to position yourself, make people believe that you are the alternative, and start to build a strategy to get people around you. That leadership around you, that will bring the resources, that will fill in the structures and others. That's what Obama did. That's why we learned from Obama to regroup and think that's what the Zambian president today did. After 5 years, 5 times, think about, no, I have to change my strategy. That's what George Weah did. He have to be. They have to withdraw a strategy from him, give him a running mate and others to bring it out. That was what Mother Bio did in order to win. But the Makela lost, and he was one of the most qualified presidents you would have ever had in Africa. He lost. He's a transformer, advising governments and this company. He lost. Alexander Cumming, the most qualified would be as a president, he lost. We don't base this qualification based on your past experiences alone. Yes, that makes you qualified. But you have to win the election. What makes you to win the elections? We want qualified people to win elections. But politics are not won by qualified people, are won by leaders that are strategic, that have the timing. The content. Politics about the content. Develop that content, and a useless leader might win. And we should avoid this. Because changing the leader alone does not change the situation. It can even make it worse. Zambia have been experiencing that from Kaunda, Chiluba, and coming around. Now, there's an opportunity. Is he going to do it? It's rest. That's why too it's important to learn from Zambia. We should be careful. One political party to extremely win comfortably. There will be incompetence. It's not good even for the party. And it's not good for our democracy. It's not good for our country. We need a situation that we will have a competitive, politics going on, and opposition that is very effective in order to hold the government accountable. We cannot only do it by social media. Social media is part of the forums or means of doing that, but we need an effective opposition in the government. We need to capture part to have a competitive parliament. And when we do that, the candidates in parliament will be better. And then these issues discussed and the same thing in parliament and the local government and mayoral will have better councillors. But that will only happen when we approach these elections right, when we build our parties, when we build our candidates right, when we build the team and strategies right. What will happen if we're not careful? Right now, as for today, it's UDP and PP. As for today. If any candidate tells you that they're going to win the elections alone, apart from the UDP and PP, it's a first past the post. It's between them. If any other candidate said that to you, that's what politicians will say. But is that a fact? It's not logical, a fact. No, they cannot. Anybody tells you anything is not true. It can only happen. The timing is wrong. There's not enough timing to a single person, a candidate or a party to do it. And yes, it's not going to be easy, and it's not easy for UDP even to do it. It has discipline. You see, as I said, when Obama got there, it was the discipline. It asks discipline and to concentrate on the content to win over more people to join. That's what they need. But what Gambians would benefit us, my theory is this. The small opposition parties to find a way. There are many ways they can find. There's many strategies they can find. That's why it's important. Words are very powerful. Let us not concentrate on ourselves. But if we do that, we want to come together, it will be difficult. I'm not saying we don't hold each other accountable, but let's do it constructively. Let's respect ourselves, respect each other. We should not go out fabricating, we should not go out outlandish claims on candidates and parties. That would destroy the relationships, and that would threaten our democracy and might even lead us from not having peaceful elections. That's the first risk. The second risk is to ensure that only two parties will be contesting competitively. As I said before, when it comes to closer to elections after the nomination, people will know the candidates. And as if it continues as it is today, two parties will be for the run. And the rest would be one digit. Because what will happen is, people that belong to other political parties will even decide that, look, I hate this party so much, I am going to give it to that party. Some will say, I don't like either parties, but I cannot stand this party going in. People will give it to give it. If I give it to my party, they're not going to win. It's only most people would not believe. Just I believe in my party, I believe my candidate. I believe that I'm going to lose. I'm still going to give it there. It will not happen, and that is politics for you. That's why in many countries, in the history of politics, you have to raise it. Very difficult to have a third one. That third one has to be created by the politicians themselves. It doesn't happen by fault. You have to create it. Strategy. In the United Kingdom, as I said, when we had the tank parliament that way, it was because of the strategy again. The Liberal Democrats took in calling out the Iraq war, against the Iraq war. Then the anti-Iraq war and the anti-war movement and coalition built up and supported them. In this way, they did not win a lot. They got 30-something seats plus they get to about 70 seats. They usually stay at 20-something seats. They have 70-something seats. Now the Conservative or Labour need the 70 seats to govern because it's a parliamentary-based system. Now they have to have a coalition. Now that's how they came into government. Now they went in with Conservative because they could break a deal with Conservative. Now they have their policies and they have said that this is the policies we want to advance. Now the Conservatives said, no, this is the policies too we want to advance. Now you have to compromise of this and that, and they did that compromise. And now, because based on the policies they want to advance, now they're given cabinet position based on those areas they want to advance. Environment, education, and so on. Now, they gave in deputy positions, like in the Treasury here, what we call the Finance Ministry, the Deputy Treasury would become a Conservative. And they did that check and balance system. And that's how they went in. And first thing they did first was to agree on amending the unwritten constitution to have a fixed term, so that the Conservative cannot only call up elections, because the Prime Minister cannot just call up election whenever he wants. They have a fixed term of 5 years. That's how we started to have a 5-year term in here. We never had a fixed term. The Prime Minister could have called up elections at a certain time of the year. And that would have been disadvantage for the Lib Dems. And that's why they agree on that. You see, coalitions are workable. We don't say that because we went in a coalition because it failed or coalitions fail. Yes, coalitions do fail, but it was workable. In Germany now is a tradition that technically they work as a coalition. In Israel, they have 4 elections, 5. They will end up in the coalition. The country will be better off. People say things will not get done. People say things will get done. It's just that things will be scrutinized and things will be hold accountable before it happens. Then what is to our advantage? Even if a party is going to win, let them win in a way that it doesn't break the opposition. Because what normally happens is, if they win the presidential election in a huge margin, that would be replicated in the parliamentary. The votes will collapse further. And that's what we have, would be a dominant party in government and dominate the parliament, and that would be replicated in local government, and then the government would not be effective because they will be complacent, because they feel confident, and our democracy will be undermined, and we will not progress. Now that's why it's our interest to do these things and to allow it. Because when we do, why do I think that a third way, and that third way can translate to second way? Barrow is completely disoriented. He doesn't have the structures and anything. Then if the opposition think about it, and the small parties even form a coalition against the UDP and Barrow, what will happen is they are going to chew into Barrow proper, and Barrow will collapse. And if Barrow collapses, it's collapse with the APRC, because Barrow, everything now is based on the APRC. Look at the government. Look at the cabinet, it's dominated by APRC. Look at his executive, it's dominated by APRC, and he's bringing in more APRC to his executive. We all know that he has failed to get the APRC as a party, but he's got the other executive. And why do you think they're supporting him? It's the money and positions they're going to get. Now that's why we have to bring about the change. Now it will be interesting to Gambians to have another change, to teach an incumbent again. And this will crystallize that you don't just come on and take the bullshit on us. We are not going to stand for that. Sorry for that language. But we will bring about change. Any government that comes in will realize, oh, we have to deliver, if not, change will come. They will kick us out. That will be good for our democracy. That's my point. Whether it's brave, Essa is brave or decisive, it's yet to be delivered. The verdict is out, but again, that's what democracy is. And we have people who have to hold him accountable, and we have to hold him accountable on the TRRC thing, but to what level? And when we come to him being a candidate, what else? Just as we'll hold Dabo accountable, Mama Kande accountable, Barrow accountable, and other people accountable will be. But we have to be very strategic within the opposition. Yes, within the opposition. Because the Barrow have an incumbent. Barrow have an incumbency. We have to fight that incumbency in a way because he's abusing it. Then we have to hold up together, hold each other accountable, but not to be distracted. Who is to lose? Barrow have to lose elections, and the opposition have to be better and win that elections. Gambia benefit. Then we continue and have a vibrant opposition again. Barrow continuity. You already, at the beginning I've said all the failures we all know. And the underlying problem is Barrow is corrupt and Barrow is incompetent. And now Barrow is nurturing corruption and incompetence, and that's what he have around him. And if Barrow, God forbid that he passed this, look, a Barrow win even is another thing. We talk about another thing. Barrow win will be very questionable and it will be challenged because of the facts are not there. The logically it's not really. Then we have to open our eyes. That's why the opposition should be accountable and hold things accountable in order for the peace and stability and free and fair elections. And whoever wins, Gambia progress, our democracy progress, and we progress. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Thank you.